All right, we're on.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We have a great new workshop with David Carr, the experienced IT guy who's helping us with WordPress. We're so excited about what we're doing with our club websites using WordPress to create the Toastmost brand and using all of that technique and quality work that David Carr has put into it. So thanks for joining us tonight. I'm looking forward to getting to know more about the WordPress websites and also getting your questions answered. Hopefully we'll have time for Q&A and we'll be able to have a discussion and get more work done tonight. So again, thanks again for being with us. And David Carr, thanks for joining us. Here he is, David Carr.
All right, thanks everybody for joining. You're not going to get a very elaborate song and dance tonight. And so one of the things I probably should know up front is how many of you have actually tuned into one of these workshops before, or you've gone to the WordPress for Toastmasters website and looked at some of the documentation or the recorded videos. Okay, several of you, but not all of you. So if you're diving in for the first time, here's the background. I got into Toastmasters in 2010, so it's getting to be a few years now. And fairly shortly after, I became an officer, and as an officer, I was interested in the website. So I actually was a reporter and editor at Internet World magazine back in the mid-1990s when the internet became a thing, and at least became a thing that everybody was aware of. The web and the early web browsers and the first companies to do e-commerce on the web. I was a technology journalist through that whole period. And had worked with some other publication, IT and technology marketing publications over time. So, I had a professional interest in the field. I had done some web development at that time. One of the components of the system that I use for Toastmasters is something called RSVP Maker, which is an event scheduling and event registration system. And that was originally created for a political candidate's website. Not anybody you know, nobody infamous, but my mayor was running for election, and he wanted to be able to register people on his site, and he wanted a big fat RSVP now button somewhere on the homepage. So I worked out ways of doing that. And so when I was introduced to our club's Free Toast website, I worked with it for a little while. And then when I was ambitious about wanting to do things like special events, open houses, I wanted to be able to bring people into what marketing folks called a landing page on the website, a page devoted to that event. And I found that it was very clumsy to do that with Free Toast, that it was really set up to give you, a home page and not too much more than that. It, does have some agenda management features built into it too, which our club was using. And so I talked to our officers and said, well, I've been doing some work with the WordPress software, which is more modern software that can be used for lots of different purposes. Can we use that instead? Do we have to use Free Toast was my question. The officer said, no, it's something that Toastmasters International does provide to us for free. But if you think you can do better, knock yourself out. And so that was the start of working on some custom software so that we could have those agenda management functions, but we could also have access to this world-class content marketing system for the web. And when I say it's a world-class content marketing system for the web, it's used by major corporations. It's also used by individual bloggers. So a very large spectrum. I mean, you can go to your local small business training and take classes on WordPress, because it's often used for small business websites and has, you know, a lot of flexible options that you can use in that context. So one of my selling points is that if you learn how to work with this framework, you've learned something that's useful to you as a Toastmasters leader, but you can also apply it to other business things that you might be up to. You can also apply it to other nonprofit organizations that you support and you would like to help market better on the web. So that's the short version of the sales pitch. Now, last time I went through the whole process of how you create one of these websites, and I'll sort of briefly point you to where to get started, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing there. So let's see if I can share my screen. And this, by the way, this event is being hosted by District 62. Thank you very much. I appreciate the district's support. I've been working with them on their district website. I've been working on a few other district websites. Founders District had a very attractive website, but it was kind of getting old and overcomplicated because too many people had done too many things with it over the years. So we did a revamp based on WordPress recently. So just to show you another example. I'm probably best known for my work with this club, Online Presenters Toastmasters. And as I go through these sites, they're set up in the same basic model, but the themes, the colors, the imagery can all be different. The layout can be different. There are lots of customization options there, some of which I want to go through with you tonight. But the idea here is that we have a video on the homepage. This is a video about why you should join. Here's how to visit as a guest, information for members and guests. And then down the bottom, we have all these different workshops that we've done. So each of these workshops is actually represented by a blog post. So I can click through and go and see the replay of that workshop video. And we can do something similar with tonight's video, which is being recorded and will be shared after the event. Before that, I was with Club Awesome. That was my first club. This is their club website. It's built on, you know, a little bit different layout, but somewhat similar model where we have some workshops going on. Part of what I want people to think when they come to one of my websites or my club websites or a district website is, wow, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of things that's happening. This is obviously a very active club. There's a lot of expertise here. This must be the club for me, or at least it must be the club that I ought to visit and find out more about. So we're trying to entice people to come and visit with using the web as a vehicle. But again, it's not just the front page. I think of Toastmasters as being kind of just a front page. I have this whole outline in here of here are the elements of a typical meeting. Here's the humorist, here's a formal speech. This could all stand to be updated, but it's in here. One thing to talk about that I think that is important is I'm giving you this video walkthrough, but there are places you can come to get help on your own. And so I have kind of two websites for this project. One is called the WordPress for Toastmasters project. That was the original thing when I created some software and I wanted to share it with the world. I offered it for free as open source software that anybody could download and set up on their own web server. Eventually, it occurred to me that not everybody already had their own web server or was as sophisticated about installing plugins and configuring websites. And so we started out having the two options. Either you can set up your own independent website, and here's some details on how to get that, or you can go to toastmost.org, which is this website. There's a forum on the homepage. you fill out the form, you get yourself a website. That's basically the deal. There is a fee associated with it. There's a 3-month free trial, and beyond that, it's $50 a year. A few clubs that are particularly engaged with me pay $100 a year just to help support the project and support me, thank me for giving them some extra assistance. And then the districts also pay a little bit more. But if you have questions as you're getting involved, there is a process that I took you through last time. After you fill out that form on Toastmasters.org, it tries to walk you through a little setup wizard, ask you some basic questions about how to get started. And it will provide you with some documentation along the way. But you can also come to the WordPress for Toastmasters website, and there's this whole section here called the knowledge base, which is articles on individual things that you might want to do. Here's some stuff about contests. There's a whole bunch of contest tools that I built out at one point. Here's the basics of how you as a member would come in to sign up for a role. Here's how you click through to do that. How you go about customizing the agenda. Now, some of this may not be 100% up to date because I work on this on my own. This is actually one of the things where, hint, hint, if somebody wanted to volunteer to help me out, I could use some volunteers to write additional help articles or to do live trainings or do trainings at TLIs or whatever. So there is a lot of written documentation here. Some of these things will have images embedded in them. Some of these things will have links to other resources. Let's see. Most clubs operate off of Toastmasters.org, so it would be it'd be myclub.toastmasters.org. If you want to get your own domain, you can do that. And so, for example, the District 62 website, they have their own domain. It is still hosted on the Toastmasters infrastructure, but after the initial setup, maybe for the first week, we played around it as 62toast.toastmasters.org. But once we were ready to go live, we made it live on their domain. And so there's some instructions in here how to do that. And also, what I'm taking you through tonight is supposed to go through some detail, but I put together a whole video course. There's a 6-7 part video course here. There's the case for why you should upgrade to this service. Here's how to get started. Here's how to edit your homepage, add your first blog post. Here's some things about organizing the meeting agendas, the email functions, how to get into customizing the site more, customizing the menus, some basics of search engine optimization. And so I have tried to go through this in a fairly systematic way, more systematic than you're going to get it tonight. So, take advantage of that and then send me questions. I'm available. You can write to david@toastmasters.org and it will get to me. I'm not hard to find on Facebook and other services as well. So that's some of the background on what you can get in addition to what I'm going to be covering tonight. Let me actually pause there for just a moment and ask you if you came here with a list of 2 or 3 things that you wanted to learn, what are those 2 or 3 things? Particularly if some of you are just learning about this from scratch, but for those of you who've been working with it for a while, are there burning questions that you would like to see me slow down and go through certain details with you? Anybody right now? Just unmute and shout it out.
Yeah, this is John from Maryland, District 36. I've been reading about your post, but I have not had the opportunity to go to visit you or to look at any of your videos.
Okay.
So when I saw it tonight, and I saw that this is the second session of what you presented earlier, so I wanted to see exactly the agenda that you provided, particularly the plugins. And you were talking about certain plugins.
Okay.
So I wanted to see how it works.
Okay.
And I got a fairly good idea about how this is much better than that of the FreeToast host, the FreeToast host. So I wanted to see exactly, I don't have a business, and so I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But I just wanted to see how it can make me a better member of Toastmasters and using our website.
Okay.
And
All right. I'll do my best to cover that, including I wrote down plugins as something to make sure that I spend time to cover. And I want to give you kind of a thorough overview of kind of the back end of one of these websites. So the stuff that you need to be able to find your way around if you're managing a website like this. Anybody else? Something that you particularly want me to cover? If not, I'll just dive in and we'll
But
figure
there's
it.
one thing that interests me, and that is, since my passion is new Toastmasters clubs,
Mhm.
the learning curve of moving from whatever the club has been doing in the past to the WordPress that you've created doesn't exist. So why can't I, as a part of building new clubs, incorporate this as their first beginning? And how would that take place? How would that happen?
All right. All right. No, I think that's a great idea. And actually I've thought of maybe offering like a longer trial period or some kind of special deal for pre-charter clubs, so that just to encourage them to get started this way. Because obviously it's a pre-charter club, you don't have a budget yet, right?
Right.
You maybe have a generous member or two, or you can kind of pass the hat, but you haven't set up a formal dues structure. So that's a concern. The fact that it's not completely free. I mean, I've had people accuse me of improperly profiting from the Toastmasters brand. First of all, I'm not profiting. I'm attempting not to lose money. But to me, it is just the best way I found of sharing it. If I could find a generous benefactor to underwrite the whole thing, I'd love to make it free. But I've not found my sugar daddy yet. I was going to run advertising at one point, but I didn't have an ad sales organization. That was maybe part of the problem, because I was doing that too in my spare time. All right, let's go back to screen share and go through a few things. So I'm gonna do most of this probably on this demo site. So this is, you can go to demo.toastmos.org, and there's something here where if you've never used any of this before, there is actually a sample password on the home page. See, where is it? Oh yeah, you can log in as member, password Ralph C. Smedley, and that will get you in to experiment with how you would go about signing up for a role, that kind of thing. So it would give you some basic experience of working with the site. And just since I mentioned it, if I go to any of these events that's in the system, I'm not here to RSVP as a guest, but let's say I'm a member. Right now I'm signed up as backup administrator, so that's going to show up as my name. But if I see that we don't have a Toastmaster of the day, I can sign up here. And normally it would say David Carr, where it says backup admin there right now. If I want to edit this, because somebody called me up and said that they could serve in a role, I can assign another person to that role. So that's the basic experience of working with the agenda as a member. There's a few other things where you can suggest a role to somebody else. It's kind of like the idea is to say, I can see you haven't done this in a while. Why don't you take this role? And they'll get an email notification that allows them to just click a button saying, yes, I'll take that role. The idea here was to make it one-click simple so that if they get that email, but they get it on their phone and they don't want to enter their password, they can just click the button and sign up to agree to take the role. But one of the things I wanted to spend maybe more time on today is just finding your way around the WordPress dashboard. And maybe I should actually look at a site that doesn't have all these customizations for comparison, but I didn't have that prepared ahead of time. So when you sign in as the administrator, you get a lot of options here. It's maybe a little bit scary how many options you have, how many different menus there are in the sidebar. Let me just show you briefly what a regular's members view of this was, because the regular members can get into this back end as well. But let's see, let's pick on so this is a person who's not an officer or anything special with the club. They can come into this dashboard. They have a few things that they can do, like change their password or add some information to their user profile, their member profile. It's telling me up top that member1@example.com is not an actual email address. Well, I kind of knew that. But yeah, anyways, this is just demo data. But they can come in and see their progress reports, which are things like they can look up all the speeches they've given in the club, all the other roles they've given in the club. And this demo users may not have given a whole lot of speeches. They've given some. They're at the beginning of the alphabet, so they probably got picked for some demo purposes along the way. So part of the idea here is that as we're getting people to sign up for roles, we're also gathering information that we can use for reporting so that members can go in and see their own history. Maybe they need to remind themselves because they did a Pathways project and they didn't record it in Basecamp. So ways for them to go back in, or for the VPE to look at other people's progress, how active they are in the club. So I can look that stuff up for myself. If I'm an administrator or somebody with more powers, then I can go in and look up other people's information as well. Any member can come in and use what we call the role planner. Now, this is where I'm looking ahead several weeks, and it's going to give me suggestions of maybe things that I haven't done in a while. Like I haven't served in Grammarian as a while, so I'm invited to sign up for that for the 25th. And what the heck, I'll be the counter for the following week. So this is a tool. You know, these tools are all great. Some of it still depends on getting your members motivated to plan a couple of weeks ahead. But if they are motivated, there are ways that they can come in and plan ahead. Or maybe I'm Toastmaster of the day for this upcoming meeting, and I can come in here and look at the roles that are still open, and I can suggest these roles to different people. And again, the system here is making some recommendations, but I can change those, and I can send out this big email blast that again has those one-click sign-up links attached to it, so that this is basically what they would get in their email inbox. You see over on the right, can we sign you up to be Toastmaster of the day? and click here, or you can say, oh, actually, I can't make that meeting. That's valuable information too, if you're a meeting planner, so that you're not wasting your time pestering people who've already told you they're going to be out of town. So there are a few ways you can record that through the agenda. There is a system of evaluations where I can give an evaluation to somebody else who was a speaker at a recent meeting. And if this was a real speech and they had put in their details, it would already be in here. But we can, this is going to crash. Might crash. Hold on a moment. Well, let me try it on the front end of the site, because there's a similar thing on the actual view of the individual agenda. Let's see. Try and sign up to evaluate Abraham Lincoln icebreaker. Okay. And so I get an electronic version of the icebreaker ballot, which I can fill out and send off to the other person. And one of the advantages of doing it electronically is that this also gets archived to the website. So I have a record of all the evaluations I have given, and I have a record of all the evaluations I have received. And so if, maybe I gave a speech as practice for a professional event, and I did that a couple of weeks ago. I got a great evaluation. I know there's some written notes that were shared with me, and I want to go back and look at that as I'm preparing to do my professional speech for real. So, all these are things where I'm trying to make the whole system as useful for people as I know how to make it. So I'm going to switch back to being the administrator here. And when I'm the administrator and I go to the dashboard, I actually see a bunch more menus. And I'm breaking things up to try and make them more organized, not to make it more overwhelming, although it might have both effects. There are a bunch of tools in here for updating roles on the agenda. I can review and approve member applications, because there's also a digital member application where I can, as VP of membership, be notified when somebody has filled out the online application. And I can come in here and see their details. And of course, this is a phony baloney one, but I can have a few notes. See, David is a returning member. So I want to have a note attached to this, and I'm going to approve that in the system. Some of these say that no payment was recorded. Okay, these are all demo entries, but if we went over to online presenters, this is the way we've been enrolling people actually for a couple of years now. Because again, online presenters was not the first online club, but it was one of the fairly early ones. And so we had to come up with business processes for doing everything online. And to me, emailing PDFs back and forth for a membership application or to even for evaluations, I think is kind of clumsy, and we ought to be able to improve on that. So that's my member applications. There is a whole section of features related to email. So we can set up forwarding addresses for the club. We can have general forwarding addresses. We can also have like demo-president@toastmasters.org will forward to the club president. And if we elect a new club president, it will forward to the new person. So some of those things are tools for continuity and keeping things organized. So there's sort of some automatic email lists built in, but then we can build in email discussion lists. So we can have a list for all our officers. So for the demo club, they can write to one address and it gets distributed to everybody. That email has to come from a recognized email address, though, of a member or of somebody else that we have whitelisted saying that it's okay. Sometimes Joe sends us email from his district email address instead of his personal email address. So we need to be able to allow that too. I do see a hand raised, and I apologize. I'll slow down in just a moment and go back to that. So you can have a member's email list. You can have an officer's email list. You just have to turn these things on. They're kind of built into the system to start with. But let me stop talking for a moment. And John, what's your question?
Yeah, this may be specific to 62toast.com, but it looks like Anna and you have been rebuilding it somewhat. And I was wondering whether it still has email forwarding, because I did not see that when I went there.
Actually, those email forwarding features are not turned on for your district because in order to do that, all basically the entire domain has to be transferred over to the Toastmost control, basically. In other words, so not just the website, but also the email. And at the time, maybe we can revisit this, but at the time, the district already had email forwarders set up, already had some other email things set up. And so we didn't want to mess that up. And so maybe those features actually should be hidden on your site. I just haven't gotten around to doing that. Anna.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that our domain is paid through GoDaddy, and they offer 100 free emails along with the domain. That's why it's basically a free service that comes along with our domain. And that's really the reason we didn't switch over. But I wonder about this new listing. You've got the categories, because we find that it's a little bit more difficult to set those up on GoDaddy or on the email that we have. And we really need to be more proactive in emailing our groups of members and segments. And so I wonder if I shouldn't talk to you about that later, about the possibility of doing some of that, working on that.
Okay, sure, certainly something we can discuss. Tara? You're muted still.
We do have it turned on for our club, CDOS, and we have a couple of members who do not, for whatever reason, they do not get the emails. And I don't know if it's constantly bouncing back. And I've asked I don't know if it's something unique to Toastmost or if it's unique to those particular members.
It might be a technical issue with my setup.
Okay.
You can, if you send me the email addresses,
Okay.
I can try and investigate the specific examples.
But everyone else gets it except for members.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, to try and keep myself
right.
Both out of jail or mostly figurative jail, but out of bad email practices jail. I do want to avoid being accused of spamming anybody. And the accusation sort of technically comes back to me. You no matter what clubs or districts might be doing. But if an email bounces too many times, it'll just get deactivated in the system. So the other thing that happens sometimes is there's an unsubscribe link. And sometimes people will forward the email to somebody else. And that secondary recipient will click on the unsubscribe list and they'll unsubscribe the first person instead of unsubscribing themselves. So their email is one of the things that I've learned way more about than I would ever want to know.
I'll send you their emails. Thank you, David.
I will try and debug it. And there, the forwarding that I do is actually not standard internet mail server forwarding, because it is going through the software that has to be able to look up things like, if it's president at this club, who's the president? And so it's database based email forwarding. So it's a little bit different than setting it up at the network level. And there can be additional things that go wrong in that process, but there are some convenience. The advantage is the idea of being able to manage everything in one place, as opposed to managing your website through one control panel and then have to remember another network or web server control panel that you go in to set up other things. So as much as possible, I'm trying to put everything in one place. All right. So I'm gonna dive back in for a moment. Actually, Alex, I haven't talked to you at all, I don't think. Oh, you're from District 47. Hey, Alex, you're muted still, but
thanks for putting on this program, David. I'm just here to observe and see what's going on. Maybe I can make some recommendation to my group later on.
okay. What club or clubs do you work with?
I'm a member of 3 clubs. Member Paul Spivak.
Okay.
Sunrise and Team Entrepreneur.
Okay. So no, thanks for joining. Lois Margarland is actually one of the people who originally encouraged me to make this available outside of our home club. Lois was a member and then a leader at Club Awesome some years ago. And yet District 62 is probably the district that has sort of given me the warmest embrace, at least lately. Anyway, let me come back to exploring the dashboard, because I wanted to take some time to go through this fairly thoroughly. So again, I was talking about, so these are email lists as in discussion lists, but then you can also have custom forwarding addresses that you set up for different things. So there's something for billing which is actually something that I use to send out reminder messages when people's dues or subscription fees must be renewed. And there's some other practice ones I have set up in here. So you can put in an arbitrary list of email addresses. So maybe it's for a committee within your organization, or it's a purpose like some of my clubs have an email address that we use for Zoom, so that if somebody forgets the Zoom password, it'll get emailed to several people. The password reset message will get emailed to several people. Where it's just a way of kind of sharing access to that without anyways, it's a fairly useful feature there. Then the autoresponder is something that I use at online presenters, where in particular, where whenever somebody fills out the form on Toastmasters International, that little, if they find their way to that find a club page, the zip code lookup, they come to the page and they click the button that says, I would like more information, and it asks for a name and an email address. That's supposed to be a lead for your club. Well, I guess, particularly right after, during the pandemic, online presenters was getting so many of those inquiries that it really helped to have an automatic response that got sent back. So this part of the email system watches for a registered address in the system. If we get an email coming in that is from find a club at Toastmasters.org, it automatically sends back a message saying, gee, we'd love to have you. Here's how you sign up. Here's how you can get a lot more information about our club. because I would like people to go to that Find a Club page and click through to our website. But if they don't, if they fill out that form, we want them to get the information about how to come to our website, get lots more information. Ideally, the VP of membership is going to see those notifications and is also going to send them back a personal note. But this way they get an immediate response. So that is pretty useful. And then actually, this is somewhat related to what Tara was talking about. There's a member email check screen. And because most of these are like at example.com, which is a phony email address that you're allowed to use for testing. These are not real email addresses, and these are all marked bad. So actually, if you looked at that screen, Tara, we might actually find some clues about why certain emails from your club aren't getting through. There is also a little link here that says help. So this is trying to give access to how you find out about things. Here's a little bit of information about how you would set up your own domain in the system. Well, let's see. A couple of these things, I guess, maybe I haven't checked lately. I apologize. Okay, well, this is how to check the status of your subscription. There is this to-do list that is sort of generated when you first set up your site. It has a link to sort of all the basic things. And then there's also, here's how to get over to the knowledge base at the WordPress for Toastmasters site. There is also a system for recording your minutes in the system. So, these are just demo entries. Not every club makes use of this, but I know one club uses it actively because they do minutes for every single meeting of, who spoke. And I don't know if everybody does that. There is actually a little tool here that is supposed to help you create your minutes based on the records of recent meetings. Again, because it's a demo site, there's not much going on here. But you can also just create a blank document. And this is essentially the same process that you would go through for creating a web page or a blog post. This is bringing us into the WordPress editor, and this we can call, this was a special election meeting. Jim Jordan was elected by acclamation. I'm writing fiction here. And so, this would just be a document that is maintained in the minutes section of the site, and members can find that. We can share that privately with people. And this is members only content, so you have to be logged in to view it. And actually, it's not showing it to me because I'm logged in as this backup administrator account, not even as a member of this club. There is also a category on the blog that is a members only content. So I think I spent some time last time talking about creating blog posts and web pages. I don't want to run out of time by spending too much more time on that. But essentially, if you want to create a blog post, which is basically a news item, you can go here to this menu up top, shows new, and there's new post, or you can go into this section for posts, and you can list the existing posts, or you can go to add new post. And this would be your news article. Let's see, webinar replay. And then in here, I could add a YouTube link. I can copy and paste in the YouTube link and add a video to this page. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do an image. So I can upload, let's see, an image. And this can be then published. If I go out and look at it, I would be able to find this in the blog section of the website, which on this website is called Club News. And so I see summaries of recent posts. If I had optimized these a little bit more, like I have on the online presenters site, we would see a featured image, kind of something enticing you a little bit more about why you might want to read this particular blog post. So one of the advantages of the blog is it's sort of automatically organized, reverse chronological order. Whereas when you add pages, you have to decide where to put them on the menu. New page would get me a new page. A new event would get me a new event, which can be an event that people can RSVP for, like this webinar. All right. So, but I'll take a break soon to go back. There was discussion of plugins earlier, was something I wanted to touch on. So there are a number of plugins that are sort of automatically active on all of these sites. So RSVP Maker is active, and then the add-on that does agenda management is active. There's a few other things that I require for administrator. So these are showing up here as network active, whereas some other things are things that I've just chosen to add to this particular website. And so you can, well, for example, let's see. One that is active on all the websites is something called Yoast SEO, which is for search engine optimization and also helps you with some social media promotion. But those are what? There's like 16 active plugins, and then there's 168. And there are thousands of plugins available for WordPress. Because anybody with the ambition to create one and some technical skills can create a free plugin and put it in the WordPress repository. And many of these things are available for free. Often there might be a premium version, or if you want to upgrade to get premium support, there are add-on options. So sometimes when you add a plugin, you may be annoyed by all the little pop-up messages you get saying, wouldn't you like to get the paid version of this? Even though I'm trying to collect some money for work that I do tend to be pretty big on, well, let's see how much we can do with the free version. And then we'll think about upgrading maybe eventually. But better click to tweet is one that's listed here. That is something where if you embed a Twitter post in your blog post, which you can do just by copying the link from Twitter and pasting it into that post, it'll create a little preview that right underneath it says, click here to tweet, or click here to retweet or comment. It's just a way of creating a little bit of social engagement on your website. So if you find yourself doing a lot of that, then that might be something useful to turn on. If you never do that, don't turn it on, because it's each of these things that you turn on potentially maybe slows down your website a little tiny bit. Sometimes more than a little tiny bit if it's badly written, or it uses a lot of database resources. That one I'm sure is fairly lightweight. It'd be a fine thing to turn on if you need it. And so you can search. If I search on Facebook, because I want to know things that are available for me to cross promote my site on Facebook or do various things with Facebook, I'll come up with a bunch of hits just by searching this directory. Now there is also a little plugin search feature that I added that is for searching the general WordPress repository. Now you could go to the WordPress.org website and search for them there as well. But let's try again the same example, Facebook. And we should find a bunch of things that are not currently available on the site. So Facebook for WordPress, which is a web e-commerce management system. Let's see, installed, not activated. So there are certain things that are available, certain things that are not that you could just request if you think it would be useful for your site. And so people do come to me periodically asking for plugins that they've heard are good. These are just optional software modules that can enhance a web page, can add an additional feature. Things like contact forms are popular plugins, use cases, things to help speed up the site, although most of that I've kind of dealt with on the back end. So there's a lot of things that are available that are either pre-installed and you just have to turn them on, or you can request them. And actually you see the star ratings here too. If something is a 5-star rated plugin, great, I'm going to turn it on. If it's a 1-star rated plugin, it might be something that has a bunch of internet security problems and hasn't been updated in 3 years. And maybe we better not add that to the same website that is shared with lots of other Toastmasters clubs. So I try and make these things available, but I also try and be somewhat cautious about it. So John has raised his hand. John, do you just want to shout out your question? Should I stop the screen share, or does it relate to
no,
what
it's
I'm showing?
okay. You can go ahead. Thank you so much, David. My question relates to Udly. Udly has both the Toastmaster version and the community version, which is, again, mostly the premium version.
Sure.
Now, which, again, is paid. It's recently become a paid version. Now, can I, as a Toastmaster, and I have a paid version of Udly, can
Okay.
it be incorporated to my club website to make it available?
Well, if there is a link that you can provide to your instance, I mean, you can link to anything, right? You'd have a link on your home page. You could have a link on a page that's just for members. So there's some possibilities there. I know the Udly guys a little bit, and it actually, if you saw on when I showed the page for giving an evaluation, I was doing a little bit of friendly cross promotion for them. They're not compensating me because they're still just getting started too. But you know, I mean, I think it's probably one of the most tech savvy things that Toastmasters has done and forever. So I think Udly is cool. I actually haven't gotten into using it on a routine basis. I've used it more for enough to see, isn't this cool? But I don't know if I've really used it to critique my own speeches and stuff. But yes, I'm happy to, and there may be additional things I can do to support you if you get to that point.
Okay.
Mary Ellen.
Thank you.
So my question may be too complicated. I probably see what you think. Can we swap out, this is a Joseph question. Can we swap out the date of the week's agenda to the next week and vice versa?
Yes. Well, you mean the what do you mean by do you mean the setup, the organization of the meeting? Or...
Yeah, well, it's actually like everything that's on this week's agenda, we want it to be on next week's agenda now. Is there a way to swap that out, or do I have to manually go in and change all the dates? I mean, all the information.
Are you talking about the assignments?
Yes.
So did you like cancel a meeting or something and you're trying to?
Well, he's changing it, so I have to, they wanted to see if there was an easier way than for me to go in and do it by hand.
I think what she's meaning is, can she save that meeting as a template?
Well,
And-
you can save the organization of the meeting as a template, but it doesn't come with the assignments because normally you wouldn't want that. What she's asking for is not unreasonable. It's what engineers call a simple matter of programming, but I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. So for right now, I would tell you you'd have to,
I'll do it by hand.
yeah. And I haven't spent much time on how to reorganize the agenda on this meeting. I mean, I can, I wanted to sort of finish going through the dashboard just because I feel like that is something that maybe I haven't spent enough time on with people.
Okay, there's just one more thing with the dashboard that I wanted to bring to your attention is that on the dashboard, you have a section for education to put up notes and folders of the people's pathways and their completions and where they're at. And that does not work, so
Okay.
how do I get that to work?
I apologize. And just to be honest, I mean, that may be one of the trade-offs of going to Dave's custom program is that occasionally Dave changes one thing over here and forgets to change something else over there that also needed to change. And so there might be times where you go to a screen and it doesn't load or it's broken. And I guess what I need you to do, if you can partner with me a little bit, is instead of cussing me out and deciding that you're going to give up on the whole thing, let me know and I could probably fix it. And I have at least one item on my backlog right now where something isn't working quite the way. It's related to that suggestion feature where people can just click to sign up for a role. And apparently it was overwriting somebody else's roles that people had already signed up for, which is not supposed to do. But I used to have a screen that you had to go to and you had to click again to say, yes, I really want this role. And I was trying to eliminate that. And I think in the process, I eliminated a check to make sure the role hasn't already been filled. Anyways,
No worries.
occasionally things are broken. I have a couple of people who are, have some programming skills and who help me out, who, actually will come to me with not only this is broken, but here's the code of how to fix it. And I don't expect everybody to have that, but at least if you let me know that it's broken, I know what to check out. All right, let me try and pick up the pace here, and then we can go back over anything else that you wanted to cover. And so again, for me, plugins are one of the beauties of WordPress is that almost any default behavior of the system can be modified by a plugin. Some of the security problems that WordPress has had over the years are related to that, is that people have gotten a little bit too deep into the system. And so I actually have gotten notifications that things were wrong in plugins that I distributed in RSVP Maker and other things and needed to be fixed. And I have fixed them as best I could. The other important thing is because I've kind of, people who sign up for Toastmasters kind of go right past some of the additional steps of setting up a website. You might not have looked at these screens. It's worth going in here to look at the options under settings. Some of these are basic WordPress settings and others are things that are added as options for different plugins. So the general thing has something like, what time zone are you in? Well, because the system does scheduling, it's important that you have the right time zone in the system. It should be set up right if you go through the Toastmasters sign-up process, but if it's wrong for whatever reason, you want to fix that. This is also where you would change the basic title of your club. Say the club changes its name. Maybe you just change a couple of words or your whatever. You can come in here and change that, or change the tagline, which is usually displayed somewhere near the site title. There are a bunch of options related to this is just the default blog post category. Actually, the WordPress standard default category is uncategorized. I always thought that looked bad, so I make it be it's club news if you haven't set it to be something else, but you can have additional categories on your site. And then the reading options. WordPress was originally a blogging system, so one of the defaults is that you can have a website where the homepage is just a listing of your latest blogs. Generally, particularly if you don't post to your blog very often, I don't recommend that, because if people come to your homepage and the first thing they see is a blog post that's 6 months old, they're thinking, well, maybe this club is out of business. So you can still have your blog posts displayed on the site, but just don't put them on the homepage. So the homepage is set up as welcome to the demo, and then the post page, which is just a placeholder page for where the blog posts are going to go, is set up as club news. And then pages typically for the blog listing would show 10 posts, and there are some options for formatting. Some of that depends on the theme you've chosen as well. The discussion section. I really have the ability to post comments on blog posts largely turned off because you get so much spam that way. Because spammers have written little robots to go out and fill out anything that looks like a data entry form. And they'll clog up things. You know, the spam generated posts tend to be, wow, you were really clever, you should be famous. And then somewhere buried in there is a link to an erectile dysfunction pills site or something. So not the stuff that you want cluttering up your Toastmasters site. So mostly I have those features just turned off by default, but you could turn them on. There is a spam filter plugin for WordPress, but I have found that was more trouble than it was worth also. These are settings for images you upload. There are settings related to the format of the blog post addresses. Most of that stuff you probably don't want to mess with. There's some privacy stuff that's turned on by default. This is where you would set up the Toastmasters application form. And really what you're doing is putting in the details about your club number, where it's located, and what its due structure is. And this is the section that specifically deals with Toastmasters options. So a lot of people who've been managing a site for a while forget that this page is in here. And when they elect new officers, they say, well, there's this officers list that's showing up on our agenda, and we don't know how to change it. Well, this is one of the places you change this. This is also related to that feature for the automatic forwarding of the president's email to the president. So the details aren't specified here, but we can choose any club member. We can make Abraham Lincoln the president. We can set up who we want to be able to make an administrator of the site. We can remove an administrator if we have to, because this person is no longer with the club or has turned out to be irresponsible. This other category called manager, which you can turn on. A manager is just below an administrator. They can't change the basic settings of the site, but they can go in and edit pages. They can create user accounts. They can help another user reset their password, that kind of thing. This is notifications. There's a security level called subscriber. No, the subscriber can't do much on the site. If you make somebody a contributor, they can create a blog post, they just can't publish it themselves. So this is the email address where I would get a notification that a post has been created, but it's waiting for my approval. Let's see. Then there are some automated reminders. I have this set up for a number of my clubs where a few days before the meeting, everybody gets a reminder that says either you haven't signed up for a role yet, wouldn't you like to? And there's a link to click to sign up for that role. Or if they signed up for a role, there's a thing that says, reminder, you're supposed to speak on Friday. Please show up. So those are just automated things that you can turn on if you find them convenient. And I hope you do. Let's see. I think that's all the most important stuff. Let's see. I'm actually after 8 o'clock, so we'll wrap up soon. Just briefly, there is a whole screen of options for RSVP Maker, such as if you're holding online meetings or online events, you probably want to turn on all these functions to show the time zone and the time zone conversions on the site. You can set it up to automatically collect RSVPs by default. But if I have an event that I'm publishing, for example, I published on the WordPress for Toastmasters site a calendar entry, but it just linked to District 62 because that's where we were doing the registrations for this. So you can turn off the collection of RSVPs when it's not appropriate. And there are a bunch of other options under here. Mostly, I just want you to know that it's available. And currently, there's a separate section for the email functions of RSVP Maker, which are also quite extensive. So I've dragged you a little bit past 8 o'clock. I'm not going to do anything more than answer questions from here on out, but maybe we can go to 1/4 if that's okay. And I potentially could stay a little bit longer if necessary. Tara.
So I have one question that's specific to if you are creating, say, something with media and say you haven't finished. So let's say you created something with blocks with media on a page and you haven't finished. And you've taken a long time and you don't want to publish. So if you use the save as draft feature, and you can then go back later to edit and you should be able to continue, correct?
Correct.
And, because it can be, certain time when you're working with media, it can take a long time, or you're working with images and text, it can take a long time. And especially if you're working on something for hours and you're not done, you save as a draft, then you can come back on that page and then publish. So I just wanted to bring that up because, in WordPress, you don't always get finished before your time is up. So I think that's something that's important for people who are starting to work with the program to know, because early on I started scrapping stuff.
Also, kind of the beauty of the web is that things don't necessarily have to be perfect. It sounds like you're being a perfectionist there, or you're using an example of trying to be a perfectionist there, and then that's a wonderful thing. But you can go back and correct it. It's not like printing 10,000 copies of a brochure and then realizing somebody's name is misspelled. Find out somebody's name is misspelled, you can go back the next day and fix it, and it will be, right from there on out. I think there are some tools where you can do a redesign of your whole website, and there's a potential challenge there that you might be saving something and it is publicly visible before you're ready, and I guess the solution to that is to have a staging site. I've been talking to Anna about maybe doing an overhaul of the District 62 website to use one of the newer themes. But I think for the district website, at least, I would try and do that on a separate site to mock it up and then move those changes over to her site. But actually, let me I want to show you something that probably not a lot of people realize is in here. Let's see, I'm not screen sharing yet, am I? Let me screen share this. And I think this is important to know that about, because we were kind of talking about making mistakes, realizing that you've made a mistake on something. And the system saves a bunch of revisions. So I don't know, maybe I can make this a little bit larger. If I go into the sidebar here, right here, it says 9 revisions are available. If I click on revisions, this is basically my Wayback Machine where I can go back and I can see exactly what changed. Now it's not giving me sort of a fancy presentation of what changed. There is some code in here, so you might have to decode that. But on the other hand, if I knew that this was okay about a month ago and then I screwed it up, I can kind of just go back in time and click restore this version. And so if you this works with pages, blog posts, events, anything that uses the basic WordPress editor, you should see that revisions options in the sidebar. And I certainly have done it too, where I think the technical term is I fat fingered that. I was trying to make a little change and I messed up the whole page. And oh crap, I saved it and published it. Now what do I do? Well, actually, there is a little black box there where you can go back, retrace your steps, and put it back to the way it was. And then maybe you can go back and try and make the little improvement you're trying to make from there. You can go back in time a little bit. Let's see, any other?
But is that just for published work, things that have been published, or is that for drafts as well, the revisions?
I think, well, I might be able to tell by looking in here, but I think it's probably for drafts as well. It would just be based on when that draft was saved. But yeah, let me try and where's my demo site? Okay, this is my demo site. Let's see if we can find a draft blog post that's in here. Let's see, wait a minute. You should be able to drafts. Got 20 of them. The things I don't know how many times I revised these drafts. Let's see, wait a minute. Is this a draft? Okay, so yeah, it's saying save draft up top or publish, which is how I know that this is not published yet.
Oh, okay.
But I don't see revisions here, but it just may be because this hasn't. Well, let's see. Let me change something, then we'll know. Let's see, we'll save draft, and suppose that was a huge mistake. There it is, 2 revisions.
Oh, okay.
So yes.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
So that, and I do find that sometimes people, when people make a mistake with technology, they kind of beat themselves up over it. Oh, I can't believe I did that stupid thing. You know, it's probably the fault of the stupid programmer who put the button in the wrong place. Speaking of somebody who puts some buttons in the wrong place. But so it's good to know that, you know, you don't have to be panicky about it. Also, John might be the only person here. Well, I don't know, Mike, I don't know if you've set up one of these sites too. When you first set it up, it's live, but there is a setting that it's not turned on yet to advertise it in search engines. So until that's turned on, or until somebody shares a link to it on social media, probably nobody's going to find your website. So you have some time to fine tune it, kind of in anonymity, until you're ready to go out and show people this wonderful thing you've created. So you have time to, you know, make your mistakes, learn your way around a little bit, get it looking good, and then share it with the public. You know, I often encourage people to, you know, share it with just your club members first, and maybe they'll poke around the site a little bit and say, you know, it looks great, but you have my name spelled wrong right here. And you go in and you fix that, right? So, but yeah, don't feel like it has to be perfect, or that you have to be a technology genius or design genius, any of that. One of the things I do like about WordPress, particularly the newer versions of it, is they are actually making it easier to do some fancy layout things. And if you don't mind me taking one more moment, I'm going to show you one more thing. And you can of course bail at any time, but just something for how you might jazz up a page. And this is something relatively new, maybe within the last year or two in WordPress. Let's see, this is my, let's see, page. And I'm not sure how to jazz this up, but I click up here and I go into this section called patterns. And these are actually pre-built designs. And, you know, they'll come in with some sample imagery, but the idea is you can say, well, you know, I would like this page to look something like that. And it adds all this content in here. And then the idea is you'd say, and what I want over here is this image. And I'll go into my media library and plug in this blue sky. Actually, that looks pretty good. And so we can actually, this is called the patterns feature. And I got to that by going to the plus sign up here. Let's see, wait a minute. Maybe I have to be, do I have to be on a blank line or something? Maybe, yeah, okay. Yeah. So it says I can add blocks, or I can add patterns, or media, which is actually is a nice thing for bringing in media that's already on the site. And then Openverse is actually a directory of free images. So these are things that have been shared under what's called a Creative Commons license. Often there might be something from a museum. We've got some Apollo images. And so if I wanted to do something about space, I could add an authentic Apollo image to my page, and it comes in with some credits information about where that came from. So there's really a wealth of resources that you have to go here. There are all sorts of workshops that you can get from people smarter than me about the basics of WordPress. Sometimes they might be oriented towards programmers, though, and so you know, if you're not a programmer, you don't want to go there. There's a website called learnwordpress.org that you can go to that has a bunch of free tutorial content, including stuff about the basics of getting started. They're not going to have stuff specific to Toastmasters, but the basics of working with WordPress are covered there very thoroughly. All right. Well, I think I've kept you prisoner for long enough. I will
Thank
be
you,
sending
David.
out a replay. I encourage you to share the replay. I encourage the district to put the replay on their website and share it out that way as well. And see, Mike, I don't know whether I ever addressed your question about new clubs, but you know, I would tell a new club that this is a good way to get started off on the right foot in sort of your digital presentation, as opposed to starting up a website someplace else and then having to move it over here. And also, you know, you're a friend. You know the guy.
I know how to reach out.
You know how to reach out. Yeah. So if you need help, ask for help, and I'll do my best to provide it.
All right, thank you for such a great presentation. And if you would send me your evaluation and what project you would like to select, I would give you an evaluation for this evening.
All right. I might make it through a path one of these days. All right. Take good care. All right, bye-bye.
You're not going to make it through if you work for free. You got to get your evaluation. You got to get paid.
Never give away a speech.
There you go.
All of
Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate
all
you
of
doing it
Toastmasters
tonight.
is pretty much working for free, isn't it?
No
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye.